So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a very short span of time within 30 minutes. Now, the idea behind this lecture series is that you get to cover your current affairs on a daily basis, but you don't have to spend your entire day just reading the newspaper. Therefore, for your facility, we will cover the entire day's current affairs within 30 minutes so that your rest of the day is free to cover other parts of your UPSC syllabus. Now, just watching this lecture within 30 minutes would be job half done, because just after watching it, you need to revise it as well. Spend another 10 minutes revising this lecture, because revision helps in consolidating these current affairs in your memory. Otherwise, you'll quickly forget them. Now, you can revise these current affairs from the notes provided by us, and these notes shall be shared on our Telegram platform. The link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section just below this video. Alright then, let's begin today's discussion. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today. So here's the list. And number one on this list is Hydrology of Brahmaputra River. Ever since India has put Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance, well, Pakistan and China have been threatening India that they would do the same to Brahmaputra River. Now, most of Brahmaputra River flows in Tibet, which is under Chinese control. So China and Pakistan both are threatening India that if you do this to us through Indus water, we will do this to you through Brahmaputra. Now the question is, can they do that? Can they stop Brahmaputra River or the flow of Brahmaputra River? We'll investigate this in topic number one. Then topic number two is related to China's rare earth magnet restrictions. The thing is that the world is shifting towards electric vehicles. Now electric vehicles require these rare earth magnets. And China holds near monopoly when it comes to supply of these rare earth magnets, which are crucial component of electric vehicles. Now, recently, China has put some restrictions, which has stopped production of electric vehicles in many parts of the world. So we'll talk about this issue. Then we'll talk about tigers and ungulates. Okay, ungulates. Now, tiger and ungulates, basically tiger is the predator and ungulates are the prey base of tigers. Now, in a recent report, it has been found that ungulates have been, or their numbers have been declining. Okay, so this threatens the tiger population and tiger conservation efforts. So we'll talk about this issue. And in the end, we'll talk about the rise of unsecured loans, especially by the Fintech sector of India. So what are unsecured loans? What is Fintech? We'll investigate these two concepts in the fourth topic. Okay, so these are the four topics that we shall zero in our discussion on. Let's start discussing them one by one, starting with topic number one, which is Hydrology of Brahmaputra. So the thing is that ever since India has put Indus Water Treaty in abeyance, well, Pakistanis have been threatening India that our friend China would do the same to you when it comes to Brahmaputra River. Because Brahmaputra River originates in Tibet, flows for a very long path in Tibet and then enters India through Arunachal Pradesh. Also, China is already building the world's largest dam on Brahmaputra River over here. Now, if China is successful in building this world's largest dam, it can block the flow of this river into India, right? Now, the question is that a major concern area for India? Can China block the flow of Brahmaputra River or restrict water in Brahmaputra River by this dam? Okay, so India has been monitoring Chinese infrastructure projects on river Yarlung Zangpo. This is the name of Brahmaputra River in Tibet. In Tibet, Brahmaputra River is known as Yarlung Zangpo. Okay, the major concern is the planned Meedog hydropower project. Okay, now Meedog hydropower project would be constructed right over here, where Yarlung Zangpo bends quickly and enters India. This is known as the Great Bend. Okay, right here they are constructing Meedog hydropower project, and this would be a 60,000 megawatt project. Now, to produce 60,000 megawatts of electricity, this dam needs to store a lot of water. And Indians fear that by storing a lot of water or building the capacity to store a lot of water, they can block the flow of Yarlung Zangpo into India. In fact, this dam is going to be the world's largest dam. Currently, the world's largest dam is Three Gorges Dam on Yangtze River in China. This is the largest dam. It is said that Meedog project would be even larger than Three Gorges Dam. Okay, so it is really a threatening development for India. But the question is, should India be that threatened? Okay, now to understand that, you need to understand the path of Brahmaputra river. Okay, so Brahmaputra river originates in Tibet. Okay, and it originates, the name of the river in Tibet is Yarlung Zangpo. It flows eastwards for a very long path. And then around this area, which is known as the Great Bend, okay, it sharply bends southwards and enter Arunachal Pradesh. Okay, the famous peak Namcha Barwa is also found close to this area. Famous Himalayan peak of Namcha Barwa is also found here. Okay, so this river makes a sharp U-turn or southward turn and enters Arunachal Pradesh. When it enters Arunachal Pradesh, it is called Siang. This is the name of the river in Arunachal Pradesh. Then it flows into Assam, and in Assam, it is joined by many tributaries. Okay, these tributaries, after joining Siang river, then we call this river Brahmaputra. Brahmaputra river flows through the entire state of Assam and then bends southwards, enters Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, the name of the river is Jamuna. So remember these facts. It is called Yarlung Zangpo in Tibet. In Arunachal Pradesh, it's called Siang. In Assam, it's called Brahmaputra. And in Bangladesh, it is called Jamuna. Okay. Now, the question is, can China stop the flow of water in Brahmaputra river? The answer is no. Okay. And why is it a no? Look at these facts. Okay. Indian estimates suggest that although the portion of India constitutes only 34.2% of the total basin area, because for the long time, basically if we talk about this entire river, most of it flows through Tibet. Okay, and only some portion, 34.2% of this river flows through India. Yet 80% of the water flowing in this entire river comes through India or flows in India, which says, basically the meaning of that is that most of the water in Brahmaputra river doesn't come from Yarlung Zangpo. It comes from the rainfall received in this area. And this is very important. 80% of the water in Brahmaputra river comes from rainfall plus the tributaries that join it. Okay, so the tributaries coming from Himalayan region come from melted glacial water. Okay, they contribute some water to Brahmaputra river, plus the rainfall, because this area is prone to heavy rainfall, very heavy rainfall. Okay, this brings 80% of the water in Brahmaputra river. Only 20% comes from Yarlung Zangpo. So even if China builds this big Meadog dam, okay, they won't be able to stop majority of the water in Brahmaputra river, because Brahmaputra receives most of its water through rainfall and its tributaries. Okay, the reason for that is that Tibet is basically an arid region. Okay, water scarce region. The river that flows through Tibet, well, it has very little water. But when it becomes Brahmaputra, the amount of water increases. In fact, the Chief Minister of Assam says that it is good that China is building this dam because Brahmaputra is prone to flooding. It carries a lot of water. It is prone to flooding. If China restricts some flow of this water from Tibet, well, we'll be saved from flooding. So it's a good thing for us. We shouldn't be scared that China would be able to block this water flow to India. Okay, that's the thing. So we shouldn't be worried. Yes, basically China can act as an irritant by sometimes leaving the water or sometimes blocking it. But as far as the water supply is concerned, people in Northeast shouldn't worry. Okay, people were worried initially because Brahmaputra is the lifeline of Northeast, especially Arunachal Pradesh and Assam. But now, after careful research and after getting this data, people shouldn't be worried. Okay, this is the thing. All right, that's all you need to know. So we shouldn't be worried. We can, with full security, put Indus Water Treaty in abeyance. Pakistan cannot threaten us. Okay, yeah, that's about it. Now let's shift to another somber news or pessimistic news, and that is China's rare earth magnet restrictions. You see, USA is erecting tariff barriers against Chinese goods. So USA is fighting a tariff war against China. Now, China has retaliated by putting export restrictions on rare earth magnets. Okay, these are called export restrictions. And why is China able to do that? Well, China is able to do that because China has near monopoly when it comes to these rare earth magnets. And why are rare earth magnets significant? Because the entire world, including USA, Europe, India, all these major countries are transitioning towards electric vehicles, right? And rare earth magnets are a key component in electric vehicles. So if China restricts the supply of these rare earth magnets, well, these companies who manufacture electric vehicles all over the world have nowhere else to go to buy these rare earth magnets because China holds a near monopoly, right? So electric vehicle production would get halted. It would stop if China doesn't lift these restrictions. And if China outrightly bans, then the entire world won't be able to transition to electric vehicles. So China has this lever, China has this leverage, it has this lever, and it can pull this lever. So basically, China has put these export restrictions to show to USA that don't mess with us because we can mess back. All right, this is the thing. Now, already these export restrictions are impacting automakers across the world, including electric vehicle manufacturers in India. Okay, because these rare earth magnets are critical components. If their supply is restricted, it would not only lead to shortage of supply, it would also increase the prices of electric vehicles, which would make it harmful for the consumers. Because whenever supply falls below demand, prices rise. So China is using this to threaten USA because USA is threatening China with its tariff powers. Now, let's know a little bit more about rare earth magnets. Okay, so rare earth magnets, especially neodymium iron boron magnets, are crucial for EV manufacturing, particularly electric motors. So these electric vehicles run on electric motors, and electric motors basically require these rare earth magnets. Okay, it is a critical component for electric motors. These rare earth magnets provide a strong magnetic field needed for efficient and powerful electric motors, and China has near monopoly. In fact, these rare earth magnets are not just used in electric motors which power the electric vehicles. They are also used in power steering systems, wiper motors, braking systems. So the entire electric vehicle, not just their motors, entire electric vehicle runs on these rare earth magnets, on which China has a near monopoly. And this is problematic. Okay. Now, what sort of restrictions has China imposed? So you need to be careful with this. China has not outrightly banned them. The purpose of putting export restrictions was, Chinese policymakers had this purpose in mind. They just wanted to show USA that they can do a lot of damage to them. Okay, they just wanted to show that. They didn't want to damage America. They just wanted to show that if you're going to mess with us, we will mess with you back. Okay, so the main purpose of these actions was to show to USA. That is why China has not outrightly banned them. China has made it a little difficult to import these rare earth magnets from China by putting these export restrictions. Now, what are these export restrictions? Well, China says that, look, these rare earth magnets can be used in electric vehicles. They can also be used in defense. Okay, fighter jets or many other things, right? So what China has said, China has told all these importers of rare earth magnets that you have to prove, you have to give an undertaking that you will use these magnets only for electric vehicles, not defense. Now that increases a lot of paperwork for these importers who are importing rare earth magnets from China. Plus, they have to wait for Chinese license. So when you will file this paperwork, China will grant you this license and then only you can import these magnets from China. Now, this license takes a lot of time. So this has caused a lot of delays, supply shortages. Okay. Now, China can remove these restrictions anytime. But what China is trying to do is China is trying to show to the world that without China, none of you can survive. If you think USA is almighty and powerful with its tariffs, well, China can also pull its levers. Okay. And that would cause a lot of disruption. So be careful. That's what China is doing. China is basically flexing its muscles through this. Okay. So yeah, that. All right. Now we'll move on to next news item, which is tiger and ungulates. Okay. So ungulates are basically these hoofed animals. What are hoofs? As you know, horses or like cows or giraffes, well, their feet have these hoofs which protect their feet from injury because they walk on rough terrain. Okay. They have these hoofs. Okay. Horses have this, zebra have this. Okay. So these hoofs, so animals who have these hoofs are known as ungulates. Okay. Now these ungulates are generally the prey base for wild cats like tigers, lions, cheetahs, leopards. Okay. Now in India, there are many ungulates and they become a very substantial prey base for tigers. Now, the population of this prey base, the population of ungulates in India is important because if their population numbers dwindle, well, then tigers would find it difficult to survive and their population would also feel threatened. Okay, that is why National Tiger Conservation Authority and Wildlife Institute of India, they both also keep a track of the number of ungulates in India. Okay, so for the first time, a detailed assessment of status of ungulates, hoofed mammals including deer, pigs, antelopes, bison, has revealed decline in their numbers in India. Now, this report was prepared by NTC and WII. And why are ungulates significant? First of all, they form the core prey base of big cats and other large predators. So these other large predators cannot survive without ungulates. Okay, and we need to protect our tiger population. In fact, we have a proper project called Project Tiger, where we try to conserve Indian tiger species, right? Now, if ungulates numbers decline, well, these tiger populations are also threatened, and this is not good news for Project Tiger. But these ungulates are not just performing this important function of being a prey base for tigers, okay? Another important function that they perform is, well, they help regulate forests and soil health. They eat plants and then they excrete, and that excreted material basically enriches the soil in that area with organic manure, and the soil gets enriched, the forests are preserved. So they perform a very important role as far as regulation of forest health, soil health, and they also form the core prey base of big cats, right? So their numbers or a healthy population of ungulates is very important for protecting tigers and biodiversity in India. Okay, so tiger prey in India. So India's tiger prey base mainly comprises of chital, spotted deer, sambar, large deer, and gaur, Indian bison. Okay, now why are these ungulates declining or showing declining numbers? Okay, what are the reasons behind prey decline? So severe habitat degradation because of various infrastructure projects. So whenever you form a national highway or a railway track, you cut through the forests. Okay, so the forest land is cut through, and well, these animals cannot travel back and forth. So you are basically fragmenting or degrading their habitat. Then there are many mining projects in forest areas. They also degrade the forest area. So their habitat is getting destroyed because of infrastructure and mining projects. Okay. Plus, because of left-wing extremism, Naxalism, well, there is a lot of problem. Okay, because there is a lot of human intervention in these forest areas. Okay, these Naxalites, they carry guns, bullets, bombs, and all that. This is a problem. Plus, well, hunting by residents. Hunting is a problem. Okay. The core tiger prey species are abundant in national parks and tiger reserves. So as far as national parks are concerned, tiger reserves are concerned, there the government has taken adequate measures to protect, okay, conserve these species. But their conservation measures are not so strict in wildlife sanctuaries. Okay, as far as national parks and tiger reserves are concerned, well, everything is going fine, but not in other areas, and you need to protect these animals in other areas as well. Okay, now what would happen? What is the impact of the declining numbers of ungulates on tigers? What is the impact on tigers? Okay, look, tiger abundant regions such as Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh are nearing their capacity to sustain their wildlife population. Okay, because the available resources of these animals, these forests, can sustain only a limited number of tigers. So these regions are reaching their carrying capacity of tigers. Now, if tigers find that there is shortage of resources, they would go outside these tiger reserves. They would wander around and they might enter human villages, attack the livestock of farmers in the nearby area. They can even cause man-animal conflict. So if they enter a village, the villagers gather and they try to kill these animals. This is not good news for tiger conservation. So all these conflicts would happen. Okay. Therefore, we need to improve the numbers of these ungulates in these protected areas like national parks, tiger reserves, wildlife sanctuaries, etc. Clear? That would be all. That's all you need to know. And now let's come to the last news item of the day, and that is unsecured loans by Fintech. Okay. Now, hear me out carefully. What are unsecured loans? So basically, there is a bank and there is a borrower. Okay. The bank gives a loan to a borrower, but the bank needs some guarantee. Okay. Because the bank is taking a risk. What if this borrower doesn't return this loan amount back? Okay, what if this borrower defaults? So bank needs some guarantee. So either there can be a third party guarantor, generally the government, who can take the guarantee that if this borrower doesn't return your money back, I'll give you your money back. Or the borrower can pledge one of its assets, give one of its assets. Okay, it can be a car, land. Okay, so the borrower will give his land to the bank as collateral and the bank will give the loan. Clear? So if there is a guarantor or if there is a collateral, the borrower has put something as collateral for getting this loan becomes secured. Because if tomorrow this borrower defaults, doesn't return back the money, well, the bank will usurp, or we shouldn't use the word usurp, the bank will acquire this asset and salvage as much money as it can. Make sense? So that makes it secure. But sometimes banks give loans to borrowers without any collateral, without any guarantor, collateral, nothing. Those types of loans are known as unsecured loans. Now, banks are generally very risk averse. Okay, banks generally don't like to take that much risk. Therefore, banks are generally reluctant to give unsecured loans. Okay, but there is demand for unsecured loans. There are many people in India who want loans without giving any collateral. That demand is fulfilled by these fintech companies. What are fintech companies? Well, those financial companies that use technology to give finance. Okay, so these new apps that provide loans on apps, all these companies like Razorpay, Paytm, Grow, all these financial companies that are using technology, apps, internet to provide their financial services, they all are called fintech companies. So these fintech companies have stepped in to fulfill this demand for unsecured loans. Clear? That is what is said in this report called Global Fintech Report, which was authored by Boston Consulting Group and QED Investors. Okay, what were the conclusions of their report? Unsecured loans given by fintech firms will be instrumental in meeting demand for retail credit in India because banks are not able to meet this demand completely. Currently, in India, 65% of the personal bank credit is secured as compared to 90% in US. Okay, 90% of the personal bank credit in USA is secured, whereas in India, it's just 65%. So many people might say that banks are taking some form of risk. Okay, but this report says that banks are not taking that much risk. Why? Because India has a robust credit bureau data ecosystem. Now, to understand what this robust credit bureau data ecosystem is, let's talk a little bit more about unsecured loans. Okay, so unsecured loans. It refers to any type of debt that is not protected by a guarantor or collateralized by specific assets of the borrower. Clear? Now, these loans are risky. Heavy losses are there for the lender, the bank, in case the borrower defaults. And that is why, because these loans carry a high risk, well, these loans also carry a very high interest rate. Okay? If you are getting a loan and if you provide a collateral, interest rate on your loan would be low. But if you are getting this loan without a collateral, because it is a risky business for banks, banks would charge a very high interest rate on this. Okay. Now, approval for these loans depends on the credit score. Now, we all have a credit score. Now, this credit score is basically a signal, or it basically reveals our credit worthiness. Okay. So, if in the past we have taken some loans, but we defaulted on some loans, on those loans, okay, our credit score would decline. But if in the past we have taken so many loans and we have returned each and every penny from those loans, our credit score would be high. If our income tax return is high, our credit score would be high. That means we earn enough money to pay back any loans, right? So credit score is given to each and every borrower. Now, banks or these fintech companies generally look at this credit score before approving these unsecured loans, because they have to check whether this borrower will return this money back. So in case of unsecured loans, your interest rate, okay, your approval depends on your credit score, and this credit score is important. Now, India needs to have a good credit score ecosystem. India needs to have good quality credit bureaus that provide these credit score, so that banks and fintech companies trust this credit score. Okay, if there is lack of trust in these credit bureaus who provide this credit score, well, then banks won't give this unsecured loan based on your credit score. Okay, so India needs to have a robust credit bureau ecosystem which provides these credit scores. Only then banks would feel safe. Fintech companies would feel safe giving these unsecured loans. Okay. Now, what is the current situation in India? There is a rising demand for retail loans. Retail loans are these personal loans. Okay. The thing is that the absence of collateral for many households that are in early stages of asset formation cycle, there are many poor households that cannot afford to give collateral, but they require loans. So there is high demand for retail loans. Okay. And that is where unsecured debt steps in. Because there is high demand for retail loans and there are many people who cannot give a collateral, well, unsecured debt's demand has risen. Now, the thing is that RBI has tightened regulatory norms for banks. Okay, banks and many NBFCs. They have to follow very strict rules to give this unsecured loans. Now, it has become so strict for these banks and NBFCs, because RBI has made it sure that it becomes strict, that banks and NBFCs are not that interested in giving unsecured loan. But there is demand for unsecured loan. So who is fulfilling that demand? Fintech. Okay. This has allowed Indian fintech to grow and fill this gap. Plus, a robust credit bureau ecosystem has also helped fintech to expand unsecured retail loans in their portfolio. This is what is mentioned in this report called the Global Fintech Report. Okay. That's about it. That's all as far as today's lecture is concerned. With that, we conclude today's current affairs lecture. Now, I say this always. I hope this lecture has added value to your preparation, but it would add more value if you are consistent and regular with this lecture, and plus, if you do not forget to revise this lecture. Revision is very important. So please do not forget to do that. And on that note, I'll be signing off with the promise of seeing you again with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.